Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TSU First. I'm your host, Lightbrandt, and for today's guest, please welcome the head of the Central Committee, the One Boss 1125. Please take a seat. Hello, hello. How are we doing today?
Hello. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing very well myself. How was your Christmas, man? How was your Christmas?
It was great. Got to see a lot of family, some of whom I hadn't seen in a while, so it was great. I'm glad to be here on
Yeah.
this great show. I've been very much looking forward to being a guest.
Yeah, did you watch Short's episode?
I did.
Yeah.
It was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, very interesting. It was very well received by the TSU community, and for that I'm
It
very
was.
thankful.
I found it to be very revealing.
Ooh, okay, very revealing.
Yeah.
Um, well, I wanted to ask you since we're coming into the new year, 2026 is right around the corner. Do you have any plans with CPSU for the new year?
Yeah, so the big thing here is that the old system of having like two chambers where you fill out an application to join, it just doesn't work. Um, the main big thing we're going to do is get rid of political parties. We just don't have a large enough number of people to do that. And I'm going to bring back the Supreme Soviet style thing that we had in 2021 in Panzer's TSU, which was extremely successful with a lower number of people. So should be pretty cool. It'll be more interactive and fun for everyone, and I think people in the government will actually enjoy being in the government.
That's great to hear. I remember that time in Panzer's TSU back in 2021. I believe I became a Politburo back then,
Yeah, that was
actually.
there. A lot of people know Arminius Vasantres. He used to be
Yeah,
Mystical Easton.
Mystical Easton.
He and I joined the CPSU and Panzer era at the same time, and me and him battled it out to become the new chairman of the Politburo. And ultimately, I ended up becoming a central committee. And I think my first act was to make him chairman of the Politburo. So, yeah, Panzer TSU CPSU was definitely something
Yeah,
that I
those were the
use as
days, man.
inspiration. Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask you again about the CPSU. Will there be more elections for more central committee slots, or were you planning on something else? And are you gonna start limiting the terms of CC members?
Well, that's an interesting question. Uh, well, there were two questions there. I'll start with the first. So the Constitution uh, allows for 5 central committee seats. You have to have a minimum of 3, and there's currently 4. So there's one open slot, and I've kind of wanted to leave it open, just as like a just in case thing.
Yeah,
Um, so I haven't decided yet, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of people who have potential to fill that slot, and there's a lot of people who would definitely benefit the government in that position. There's a clause in the Constitution that if war is declared, so if the premier or first deputy premier declared war on, let's say, like the Finlandic group, um,
there's been a lot of
that
controversy with that
automatically
group
there has been, and I
as of
hope we
recent.
discuss that. Um, but that automatically gives me the authority to appoint 2 additional members of to the CC, regardless of who is currently on there. It allows me to appoint the Minister of Defense, which is you, and the chairman of the KGB. So there's definitely the potential for CC expansion. Um, you'll have to remind me of your last question, the second question. I forgot what it
Sure,
was.
sure. Um, are you planning to limit the terms of CC members, or are they members until they retire?
That's a good question, and I'd honestly be more interested to see what the public thinks on this.
Oh,
A
are you
lot
gonna?
of Ronation groups uh, have elections for everything, and I'm not opposed to that at all. I think it would be great.
Right.
Um, but one issue you have is that there are a lot of people who are popular but not competent,
Hmm.
and you really have to be careful with who you allow having a position like that, because a lot of people think CCO, it's a high rank, but it doesn't really do much. Well, all of these rules, like the new life rule that are, you know, fundamentally change the gameplay, those things are decided on by the central committee. So maybe not every day we're doing things that are like, you know, extremely important, but every now and again, one of these things comes along, and it's very important to have the right people there making these decisions. So
Right.
to answer your question, I probably will not do that. If we do institute terms, they will be like 2 to 3 months. They would
Okay.
not be. They would not be very short terms.
Are you saying that you won't do terms because you think that there's a lack of competent people in this group to fulfill, you know, or to fill those shoes of the Central Committee members?
Yes, in a sense. There are a lot of very competent people. I would suggest that the Council of Ministers that we currently have are very competent people. And as you know, Council of Ministers has been the traditional stepping stone into the Central Committee.
Yeah, they usually
Every
graduate.
single, yeah, every single one of the current CCs are former Council of Ministers. And so it is a stepping stone. That's been the traditional point from which members become CCs. But the downside to that is that the premiership has a rule, and it's actually in the Constitution as well, that Central Committee members are not allowed to be ministers. It's not a rule I personally agree with. And if given the opportunity, I would vote to overturn that. Um, so yes, it's because there's a lack of competent people, but not necessarily to become CCs. It would be to fill the gaps and left by the people who become a central committee that I would be most concerned about.
I see, I see. Um, I also wanted to ask you one more thing about your plans for the government. Were you planning to bring back the Presidium,
No, I think that is a retirement rank that people became.
like once they're inactive?
Yeah, so the Presidium as we knew it before I got rid of it is not coming back. Now, in the new Supreme Soviet structure, there will be two ranks. There will be the chairman of the Presidium and the deputy chairman of the Presidium. There will not be a Presidium rank, so they're not necessarily chairing a committee, so to speak. Um, their job will be to facilitate cooperation between the two legislative chambers that will exist within the Supreme Soviet. So, no, in the sense that we know the Presidium, it will not come back, but there will be ranks with that name, but they will not do the same thing.
I see. So you're planning to bring it back in a different format.
Yes, that's true, I guess. I think the people that had the Presidium rank before were just sort of handed it.
Right.
Uh, and I will not mention names, but certain members who had that rank started complaining when I took it away from them, even though they'd had the rank for 3 or 4 months and done absolutely nothing with it. So
Hmm.
I don't know what to tell them. So I'm sorry, I suppose.
Um, Here's a little bit more of a different question from the ones that I've asked you before.
Okay.
Um, this is more of like a scientific question. Is it possible to catch autism?
That is an interesting question. We have our people working on that 24/7.
The
I've
biopreparate?
devoted. I cannot actually comment on whether or not uh, an entity by the name which you just mentioned exists. I'm not allowed to do that, but I will say that we have our people, our best people, working on that. Some say they're the best people who have ever worked on this.
I've heard
Um,
something about Tylenol.
well, Tylenol is American poison, and
Mm. We don't
our
use
top
C-Meds around
scientists.
here.
As a matter that is a great alternative, might I add. And our scientists, our chief scientist, in fact, the director of autism himself, told me that CMAX is a great, it's like a vaccination
Yeah.
against autism. Um, so yes, I think the answer to your initial question was absolutely it is possible.
Hmm.
However, you know, just engaging in your own medical safety by using CMAX is a great way to prevent that, and it has so many other neurological positives.
Right, it's
Um,
a nootropic, I've heard.
yeah, it gives you increased memory, better clarity. It can give you headaches, but that's better than being autistic.
Yeah. No, no hates autistic people, by the way.
Not at all. They're
We're all
some of the
autistic here.
best. Well, some
Well,
of you are.
okay. I've heard that Short's disqualification from the Central Committee was a Jewish plot. Do you have any comments on that?
I do. Um, okay. So first of all, I think that's a very nasty question, let me just say, because what you're implying there is that I was part of this plot.
Hmm.
Because as you know, in the election where Short was disqualified, I was declared as the winner. It was my
Yeah, and I think
first time
Short had
being
something to say
elected.
about that too.
I think he did, and I think he thinks that it's a plot. But I I mean, there's no deep state plot when I democratically defeated him. The people chose me over him. And he tried, he employed tactics of election interference. He abused his position as Minister of Militia to try and garner more votes. And if I'm not mistaken, he even employed the usage of alt accounts to, punch up the vote.
Wow.
These mafia style tactics um, during a democratic process are absolutely disgusting. And I think he ought to be ashamed of himself, if you want to know the truth. And I think he should apologize to the people of TSU for insinuating that the integrity of the democratic process in their name was somehow a plot, when in fact it was the people who discovered his treachery. I think he owes them an apology, and I think he should be ashamed.
Wow, it sounds like you have some very strong words for Short. Um,
I'm only reciprocating those which he had for me.
wow, maybe we ought to have both of you on the show and you guys can sort out your differences there if he
Well, I
is willing
mean,
to do
if
that.
if you recall, on your last episode, I left a comment
Yes, I did see that
challenging him to a
actually.
debate. I've had no response from him. It seems that his
Wow.
office is ignoring mine. Uh, he's only been able to conduct official government business through his secretaries. He's cut off all formal communication after he's made his allegations. To me, it seems like he's afraid to confront me face to face. So again, I say to you, Short, I challenge you to a live debate on these issues which have been plaguing your political career.
So, on the topic of Short and Vanel, actually, I want to bring Vanel into this, the other Central Committee member. Um, since they're both in kind of intelligence roles, do you believe that there's some corruption going on there?
So I've heard the allegations that you're referencing that the intelligence services have a grasp on the Central Committee and somehow are acting as some sort of shadow government that are controlling the votes of the Central Committee members. And I will say this: I think these rumors have some merit.
Hmm.
Let's take Short, for example. He's a high ranking member of the intelligence services and Spetsnaz. And as we know, Spetsnaz has vast powers and influence here. Um, and Vanel, I believe he is a high ranking member of the KGB. Uh, just, I mean, these are obviously unconfirmed reports, as of course I would never divulge any information that I might know on a personal basis with them, but um, I fully believe that these two are are representing the interests of these services almost on a subversive level. Um, I will say that when conducting business that relates to these divisions, they have a very different manner of dealing with it, almost as if
Like they're protecting them?
their actions aren't their own.
Interesting. Interesting.
It,
And
I mean, I don't know how else to describe it other than to say that their actions don't seem to be their own. Um, you know, as I look at the server list here, I see Prime Peak and Remvir, and one can only wonder if somehow they're pulling the strings within my committee.
wow, man. Do you do you think that the intelligence are trying to accomplish their own goals or further their own goals in your government?
Well, I can only imagine so. I don't know of anyone or any entity that, when presented with the opportunity to perhaps control 50% of the central committee, wouldn't jump at it. Um, they
Right.
definitely have the motive, that's for sure.
Have they passed any legislature that would suggest this?
There have been several pieces of classified legislation that have passed through the central committee, and when legislation regarding these divisions comes up, we're not allowed to share it publicly. It's something that's handled through private channels. But I will say this: when legislation regarding, let's say, Spetsnaz arises, Short is very defensive
Hmm.
about it. He's very protective, as you said earlier, of that division. So it's very clear to me that someone is pulling strings.
I see. And do you think that the same protection also goes for militia? Because in my previous episode with Short, he did say that he has taken, a little bit, more bias of approach when it comes to militia, considering that he was, their minister before he became a central committee.
So I think you're absolutely right, and I do remember hearing that in the episode. And you know, the Central Committee is currently composed of 50% former ministers of internal affairs, and privately, both Vanel and when I say privately, I mean within the official Central Committee channels, which are not publicly available. Um, both individuals have confirmed that they have personal bias in favor of militia, and I find it disturbing that in such a high official capacity, they're so blatant with their personal biases.
Right. Um, I kind of want to move away from the government topic because I feel like we've discussed just about enough in terms of that. I wanted to ask, what is this beef with you and Conscious? I noticed you weren't one of the candidates for Executive of the Year in
Yeah,
her little Google form, and you guys did have a massive argument in the Commandant Service officer group chat. So,
yeah.
do you want to tell me what that was mainly about?
Well, let me start by addressing the Executive of the Year thing. So it's so painfully clear that Conscious is acting out of some personal hatred for me when it comes to making decisions about who to include in these polls and ballots. First of all, I don't understand how it does not make sense to include the head of the Central Committee in the Executive of the Year ballot when I am the head of the Supreme Executive Committee of TSU. And if you look through the government announcements channel in the main TSU server, you will find just months of me uh, carrying out my role. And, you'll find so many examples of executive action. It's insane how I'm not included in that, but another member of the Central Committee is, who has not done as much as I have in an executive capacity. Um, Now, I believe this is because they have a pre existing friendship that may extend outside of TSU that she chose to include him. But I think it's disturbing how the ownership allows her to have such an official capacity when she's not capable of separating her personal bias.
Yeah,
And
I
to
agree.
address the argument that I had with her in the commandant service officer group chat, the point of me confronting her in that discussion was to prove that she is completely unwilling to see past her own self advancement and to highlight her refusal to accept the fact that she's wrong. Um, she made many personal attacks. She insulted members of my family. Um, she insulted me numerous times, which who cares? She's one of those people who speaks so much, the value of her words has just evaporated. Um, and I'd like to address this. Um,
Jamie, pull up that message count in the main server, please.
yeah, I believe it's like 23, almost 2,400, which is absolutely insane. One of the accusations that she made was that I spend all of my time just in like the TSU server. Throughout the entirety of Christmas Day, she did nothing but speak in general chat, and I believe she has over 3 times the amount of messages that I do in the main server. So, and I believe in the last 2 or 3 days, she's added nearly 500 messages to the
That's
to the
crazy.
to her own word count. It's actually ridiculous how much time she spends just yapping away and hating on other people. And many people have asked me, yourself included, you've actually asked me this multiple times privately, why bring her back? I
Yes.
felt that at the
Why bring her
time,
back?
I felt that bringing her back, specifically to the Ministry of Communications, would be a good thing because when media is functioning at its highest capacity, it's a great division. It outputs great work. It's an engaging entity within the community, and it's just something that everyone can sort of look at in the output of that division. Um, and that was really why I wanted to bring her back because without her, that division is not working very well. What I One of the terms of me bringing her back actually was that I told her that she needed to stay out of drama. So naturally, the first thing she does is come back and just immerse herself within the drama.
Hmm.
Uh, so she's just she served her purpose, in my opinion, and I think it's time for her to go. And
Yeah.
I call on every minister who has her within their employment to seriously consider the damage that she does to their image and seriously consider whether she's an asset to their division. And I call on the premiership to review whether or not she should remain as one of the events managers. I think it's time that all members of high command really consider whether or not uh, she has overstayed her welcome.
She is also one of the few people who have access to ban other people from the game, if I may add on.
Uh, I was not aware of that
Yeah,
actually.
she has a panel that she can use to ban people.
Well, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Someone who has so obviously used her power in the past for personal reasons should not be given that level of power again. Before the show, Me and you were just talking, and we were sort of almost reminiscing about her
Yeah.
trial and some of the reasons that she was found rightfully guilty. One of which being that she incited an insurrection against the intelligence services,
I
and that it
actually
took.
wanted to ask you something about that.
Well, let me finish my thought. She quite literally tried to weaponize her division against the intelligence services, and it
Mhm.
took our wonderful Ministry of Special Operations to quell that insurrection and put them back in their place. And ultimately, the evidence gained from that attempt is what led to her conviction.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask you a question related to that.
Okay.
This isn't necessarily a free response question. This is more of like a multiple choice. You have three answers here, okay?
All right.
If you had a problem with the intelligence service, what would you do? A, organize a protest with media personnel against them. B, organize a protest with media personnel against them and refuse to stop, leading to a sort of hostage situation inside the media HQ. C, organize a protest with media personnel against them, refuse to stop, which escalates it to a sort of hostage situation inside the media HQ, then gun down the Spetsnaz outside.
I think that's a great question, and for the slower members of the audience who aren't understanding what you're getting at there, uh, Conscious, I believe, chose the fourth option, which was all of the above,
Hmm.
and she weaponized her division, uh, protested against Spetsnaz and KGB, and she literally created a hostage style situation, which required, mind you, required by law the Spetsnaz to step in and secure peace within the media HQ. I think it was disgraceful. Someone who was convicted of leading an insurrection against the intelligence services and the special forces is entrusted with such great powers now by the leadership of this group, and I again call on them to reconsider that decision.
Yeah, I think they need to really think through what they have entrusted her with.
I couldn't agree more.
I wanted to ask you about a controversial individual from the jump when he joined this entire group,
Right.
Dark Supplier. There's been
Ah.
rumors that you are Dark Supplier, and for the members of the audience that don't know who Dark Supplier is, he's the person who released the infamous Bang Bus files and the Kai Pack posters.
So I am familiar with this person. I deny being this person. Um, I have no interest in Conscious's proclivities. Certainly not enough to go about compiling evidence within a document about it. Um, it is my belief, personally, that Dark Supplier, who was appointed as Supreme Bringer of Truth by the first Deputy Premier, is a member of the intelligence community leaking these documents for the people to
Mm,
see. And the KaiPak posters, for those of you who don't know, that's I believe it's the KGB International Public Affairs Committee, something like that. Um, this is essentially the lobby group, or the lobby group that the KGB uses to fund members of the group into supporting their causes. And I'd also like to mention now that Short is one of the main benefactors of KPAC funds, which is a reason why I really believe that he is uh, uses his positions to act on behalf of the intelligence services. Uh, the report that I have in front of me suggests that he received over 3,000 Robux from this KGB lobby group to support their.
that's crazy.
Um, it is indeed. I actually have an unreleased uh, file here that has not been released to the public.
How did you attain this file?
So the file that I have was given to me by the KGB. It was part of my weekly report that I receive, just informing me on the state of national security. And this file details individuals who have received funds from lobby groups. And there are several prominent individuals within these files that have not been publicly named yet. Um, I believe the intelligence services are currently trying to track down and identify Dark Supplier, which is the reason these haven't been released.
Hmm.
Um, so I won't say now what they contain, but it certainly is alarming. Um, if I'm going to turn here to you referenced the so-called Bang Bus files.
Yeah,
Um, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's a volume one, uh,
that is
and
correct. That
the
is
the
correct.
client list is the first of three. So I think it's extremely concerning that let's see, seven individuals were named, I believe. Yeah, seven individuals were named, and that was only the the first of three lists. So that's implying that 20 plus people are involved in this morally decrepit scheme, whose ringleader is, of course, Conscious Crimes, otherwise known as Conscious Lewinsky. Um, so we're certainly looking into that, and I look forward to having a full public uh, debrief on that. Maybe even a press conference where I allow members of the public to ask me very specific questions regarding these files.
Hmm. Moving on to some more recent developments in the group,
Okay,
I want to ask you about Victor being appointed as the MOJ, and that
okay,
is actually serious for
that's
short
right.
because he forgets his name every time I mention him. But
Yeah,
um,
which says a lot on how well
this
informed he is.
I want to address how this can be related to what Short was talking about with the Herzog family corruption. Would you like
Right.
to make a statement about this and about Victor?
I'll preface by saying this: the Herzog family was not in any way a corruption scheme. The Herzog family was simply a collection of individuals who became friends over a long period of time. Um, it started with me and Tempersons. We formed it back in 2022, and it just grew from there. There's numerous members, and in fact, there are some people now in TSU who are former members of Herzog. Uh, Short's accusation, his false allegation that I appointed Victor simply because he was a senior member of the Herzog family is completely false. Uh, and I think that is extremely insulting to his pristine record uh, as one of the most respected judges in TSU. He's presided over many cases that have set great legal precedents, and clearly one of the rising stars in the legal world at TSU. Um, like I said, he's a great judge. There was no reason that he does not deserve the appointment to Minister of Justice. When I had my options laid before me, uh, he was the obvious choice.
Right. And I agree with his appointment to MOJ. I really don't see anybody else being fit for that position. Um, Victor was, I'm not even trying to sound biased with Victor because I know he was in my law firm, but he was one
Right.
of the most valuable people in the courts because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe every case that he was a part of, he either won or
Had a
it
favorable
resulted,
settlement.
yeah, it resulted
You're
in a good
absolutely right
settlement.
about that, and I'm glad you brought that up because the Herzog and Sons law firm, which you founded and I was a senior partner within, never lost a case. We won every single case we were involved in, or we had a very favorable settlement compared to what the odds might have been if had gone to trial. And I I think Short, going back to his allegations, I think he I think he was just grasping at straws in an attempt to discredit me and damage my credibility, which I think speaks to his own uh, waning character.
Well, I would also like to point out how I believe, I think it can look a little bit suspicious that the Herzog and Sons law firm won, or at the very least, didn't lose any of its cases that it was a part of. To
I
any
don't see that as
observer,
suspicious at all. Um, we're just simply better, or we were. The law firm was
the
disbanded
law
on
firm
my
is disbanded.
recommendation. That was something I recommended to the new Minister of Justice, that he disband law firms, and he put it to an internal vote, and it was decided that law firms would be disbanded. Uh, and to your point, no, there was no corruption or anything like that. Every single time we were involved in a case, we made absolutely sure that there was a judge that had no conflicts of interest with us, and that the whoever, whether it was a defendant or a plaintiff, whoever was opposite from us within the courtroom, we made sure that their legal representation was had no conflict of interest with us. So um, it was a completely fair process, and people of TSU can request the court transcripts.
Hmm.
They can make a ticket in the court server and request these court transcripts, or they can message me or the Minister of Justice, and we're happy to share with them the transcripts of these cases, which prove that there was no bias or any sort of corruption there.
That's great to hear. I didn't know about that. This
Yeah.
transparency, I believe it's a step in the right direction for TSU, and I think more ministries should implement a policy of transparency.
Yeah, I think several people in senior leadership positions have an issue with transparency. They don't like, I find it interesting that some people will share information and then be upset when people talk about it. And so I think what some people do is they intentionally fail to represent the truth, and
Hmm.
they live in their own world and just spew misinformation.
I want to ask you about Deadly Plum Jelly, the former minister
Yes,
of Justice. I was
right.
about to say defense there. I kind of had I had a little light brain moment, but
Yeah.
did you personally take him out back and put him out of his misery like old Yeller?
Well, uh, the true nature of Mr. Plum Jelly's departure is unfortunately a highly classified matter,
Hmm.
which I am not permitted to comment on at this time.
I
Um,
understand.
Mr. Plum Jelly has decided to move to the Far East and start
Ah,
a new life there. He found a new job where he'll improve his physical fitness, and
oh,
he's really looking forward to that. I can't tell you how happy he is to be making that change. He's going to be working in the outdoors as he's always wanted to. So he's just taking a
wow,
step,
that sounds very relaxing.
he's taking a step away from the bureaucratic nature of the office, and going into a more manual labor job and some more challenging environmental conditions.
Hmm. I want to ask you about the Discord server, the TSU Discord server.
All right.
And this is like a would you rather question, okay?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Would you rather die right now or double it and give it to the Soviet moderation team?
I would quintuple it and give it to the Soviet moderation team. Um,
Wow.
and I know you've had personal I know you've had personal experience here, and I have no doubt that you would have made the same choice I did. Um,
Yep.
the inactivity of the leadership of the moderation team has allowed its moderators to weaponize their powers against the
They're
people
out
that
of
they have.
control.
They are
Out of
out of
control.
control. They've weaponized their powers against the people they do not like, and it's just
Hmm.
It's a ridiculous abuse of power. I've made several personal pleas to those who are in the position to deal with this to put a stop to it, but those pleas have unfortunately fallen on deaf ears. Um, it's my personal belief that the moderation team should be disbanded. Um, I think that members of the Central Committee are perfectly capable of dealing with in-server moderation if issues should they arise, and that having a moderation team endowed with these special powers with practically no oversight
with even more
is
special people in them.
yes is extremely damaging. Uh, you have suffered the wrath of Arthur,
Hail Arthur.
um, Hail Arthur, and it's just not a great thing that's going on there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Um, the Soviet moderation team might honestly be consisting of like bottom five people in TSU,
I
at
couldn't
least.
agree with you more. I really couldn't agree with that more. If you're at the point in your TSU career where you think, yes, I would like to join the moderation team, I am sorry that you felt that it has come to this. I mean, if you let me just say it, I'm going to make a public plea right now. All of you Stvalians, members of TSU, uh,
The Stvalites.
the Stvalites, if you feel the urge to join the moderation team, please don't. Send me a DM and I'll talk you out of it. All right? We don't need more of them. Just please, 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 please don't do it. For your own good and the good of the community.
What do you what do you think about the people running it all? And not even really
You're
just the
gonna have to be
Soviet
more
moderation
specific. You're gonna have to
team,
give me some
but
names there.
the leadership of this union, and I want to specifically highlight Sarah and Davy. I want to know what your opinion
Right.
is on both of them as a
Well,
HOCC.
as the HOCC, they are community managers, and I fully believe that the community manager role, the role itself, not the people occupying the position, is important, and I think it has the potential to bring great benefits to the group.
Hmm.
Now, the people occupying the positions, however, are not performing well. Sarah is not active enough, and she has zero care for the quality of her moderators. Um,
Which is partly the
she
reason
has
why they run amok now.
that is 100% true. There's zero background check process, which is completely ridiculous. And her last two hires have been the two most hated and controversial individuals within TSU. It doesn't make sense. Why on earth would you endow these people with more powers when they are already hated for their known abuse of the powers they already have? It is completely ridiculous, and it's as if no logic is being employed. Now, moving on to the other community manager, Davey. It is widely known, especially among members of SAF, given their
Hmm.
witness to an altercation between
He
me and
is
him.
the manager of SAF,
The
unfortunately.
self-appointed manager of SAF, might I add. Um, he took it upon himself to make himself the manager of SAF. So I don't want the SAF command to feel as if they're somehow subservient to him or that their developmental future is somehow reliant on him. That is just not the case. Um, Davey is a completely ineffective community manager. He is not good at his job. He has the responsiveness of uh, one of those jellyfish that lives forever. It's just like he's always there but never doing anything, just floating
Yep.
around. Um, it takes 1 to 2 months to get a response out of him. That is not an exaggeration. It takes many of you know he was my predecessor as HOCC, And as part of that transition of power, it is incumbent of the outgoing HOCC to like transfer all of your documents, formats, Trellos, Google Drive folders, whatever it is that you've been using to organize your office. You're supposed to transfer that to them. It took him 5.5 weeks just to
Oh
send
my
me an editing
goodness.
link, just to send me an editing link of the old Constitution. During that time, I wrote a new one. So, and he wasn't even aware enough to check and see if a new one had been made. So, he's just not no good. He needs to be removed. And someone who's more competent, more responsive, and more invested should be appointed to that position.
Right. I honestly I couldn't agree more. Um, I know you and Davey have had some issues in the past, but when it comes to my relationship with him, he is like you said, he has the responsiveness of a tardigrade, and
Yep.
he has for some reason taken it upon himself to become the like main kind of gateway, like communication between me and Omar when I could just DM Omar. And he's taken, actually, he still hasn't done it. He's taken about 4 months to make a new Commandant Service uniform, and he has it, but he just hasn't sent it to Omar for whatever reason.
And this is one of those things that I'm talking about. He has what we need. He has what we need to improve this group,
Yeah,
and he refuses to send it. One can only ask why. Why does he have such a lack of care? How is he trusted by the people at the top when he is actively sabotaging the group? That is the question that I feel the people at the top should be asking themselves. Why do we allow someone who is actively hampering the progress of this group's growth to remain in their position?
I actually asked him this question, like why haven't you come up to us and, done something for us? And by us, I mean Saf.
Yeah.
And you know what his response was to me?
What was
Um,
that?
and I'm not even joking, okay? He tore his ACL. And keep in mind, this group does not require you to run, walk, anything. He tore his ACL, okay?
Yeah, so what he's just said is I have an injury that means I can't move around very much, so I'm probably spending most of my time at home recovering, doing nothing.
Hmm.
Uh, sorry, that requires me doing absolutely nothing takes away from the responsibility that I have accepted within this TSU. So that's just a completely terrible response.
It's just the lost cause with him.
Well, I think if he had any sense of self awareness or care for the future growth of this group, he would resign as a community manager and
Yeah.
make way for someone who could perform that job much better than him.
Um, what do you think about the premieres? And specifically about what they have been doing for this group, what you've been seeing from your side of things since you're the HOCC.
Right. Well, so my opinion of the premiership is something that I'm not even fully developed on myself. So I think I'll start with Sakes. Sakes is a very dedicated individual. He's very dedicated to this group and its success. He and I often have very lengthy discussions about what can be done to improve this TSU. We often discuss some of the people in it. Um, he's all around really trying his best to make this work. I think he is quite possibly has more on his plate than anyone else. He takes a lot of flack from people who like to blame him for stuff that goes on. But let me just say, he's doing a pretty good job at managing both the RP and development side of the group. Uh, Many people don't realize that, but Sakes is actively in charge of development and the RP side of the group. This is one of the reasons that I've been an advocate for returning the deputy premier rank, so that Sakes can sort of shuffle some of that responsibility onto another individual who has the authority to act within their respective sphere. Um, Whether that be, uh, in charge of the RP stuff or in charge of the development team, whatever it is, um, he needs someone there to help him sort of carry that responsibility. Um, Omar, I don't interact with him that often. I like to. I'm a firm believer of the chain of command, so I always go through Sakes as my immediate superior. Um, well, I'll just leave it there. I'm not going to actually comment on my personal beliefs or relationship with Omar.
All right then. I don't have anything else to ask you. Um, the one boss 1125.
Right.
But
Formerly DuxHiersor, formerly Stallpanzer.
yes, but I just want to say that I agree with most of the things that you've said here. Especially with the controversial moderation team, which is, I would say, like 40% of them are incompetent.
I would
And
I would suggest that it's closer to 80 to 85%.
well, in any case, I would say that we both have a problem with them, and rightfully so.
Yep.
Um, the community managers, honestly, I know you like the idea of that role, but honestly, I don't think that the role is even needed.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think that their responsibilities could be consolidated into the deputy
It could.
premier.
They
Having
definitely
a
could.
having a role under Sakes that also has, so-called supreme authority within whatever sphere they're assigned. Uh, I don't think that people who are retiring, i.e., Sarah and Davy, should be rewarded with a promotion and more responsibility. That just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Right now, the way we have it is they're like two mini deputy premiers that pop in every once in a while and either complain or get asked something and then they leave it unread,
Well,
or a
that
mixture of
just
both.
reminded me of something. You know, the Premiership makes this big deal about Sarah being in every Discord server to ensure
Oh
that the
my
rules are
goodness.
being enforced. I think it's absolutely
That's
um,
retarded.
I
Like,
think it's ridiculous that, so for example, my government Discord server is completely moderated by her. Your SAF server, they're attempting to do that. And then
if
every
they
other
do
server,
that,
with
oh
the
my.
exception of one, the Spetsnaz
Yeah, the
server,
Spetsnaz server.
has absolutely zero moderation. So how on earth can the
What a
Premiership
double
and
standard.
Sarah, it is such a double standard, how on earth can they possibly justify the moderation of everyone else but these people who are possibly the most morally degenerate people in TSU are left unmoderated? Just does not make sense. And I think this is one of those things that really needs to be looked into. And I don't want people to just blow this off. I think people should be asking these questions.
Yeah. Um, I was gonna say, you know, Sarah once asked me, and this is a serious question that she asked me, and before this, I had asked her a few things that she did not answer, okay? She went to my DMs with a question, all right? And the question was, where's the SAF server? I'm not even lying. Where is the SAF server was her question. And, you know, I would be very angry if she joined the SAF server
Well, rightfully
because
so.
she has no business being there. She has no business being in the sixth server or the commandant service server as well, and I think you just left.
I didn't mean to. I
Um,
didn't touch the keyboard for like 20 minutes.
it's all right. Um, like I was saying, she kind of exists there as like a looming threat to me. And that's how I see her presence is a looming threat because every
Well, you're
time that
right to think
she
that.
every time that she talks to me or interacts with me, it's always something negative. I try to like,
It's always accusatory.
occasionally I try to interact with her in like a positive light, a positive way. Like I ask her for
Yeah.
opinion on something, or I ask her about some moderation issue. She doesn't respond. A few days later, she is immediately, uh, and this is I take this to be very rude. She accuses me of, on multiple occasions, admin abusing when, you know, it's just completely ridiculous. And
Yeah.
it's like speaking to a goldfish, honestly. And um, they can't remember anything that happened more than 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, you have to
They,
keep repeating
yeah,
yourself until they know nothing else other than that which you're repeating.
exactly, exactly. And this
Yeah.
is the same case with Davy too. I don't know what it is. Like
No,
maybe,
you can tell Davey something as many times as you want. He's just not able to comprehend basic logic, or he doesn't understand the concept of a fact. Uh, Davey cannot comprehend things that do not exist within his own, you know, delusions and whatever little world he's created for himself.
you know, I wonder, is this gonna happen with you, man? Like, because every retired HOCC, it's like they have dementia, like in Alzheimer's, at the same time. They,
Well, my tenure as HOCC has been fruitful. I think we've done a lot. We've changed a lot of stuff within the government. We've gotten the court back up and running. That's one of my achievements. Um, I will say this. One of the things we did recently was we voted almost unanimously to close the Ministry of Communications. This is a bill that I introduced. I wrote this bill. um, Only one individual who was a former minister of media, as was I, um, voted no. Um, but other than that, we had a three-fourths majority that passed that bill, and a couple days ago it was enforced by the premiership, who in fact demoted the ministers of the MOC and then closed the division. Um, I don't expect that to come back. What I want to do is introduce individual news companies where like people can actually write their own newspapers and publish them in the Discord server. Obviously, there'd be state
yeah,
oversight. But anyways, that's not important right now. I wanted to mention this. I think, especially from my standpoint as HOCC, I think you're completely justified in not wanting Sarah in any of your SAF servers because she has allowed her underlings, her moderators, to weaponize their powers against you on a personal basis. And she seems to have like zero comprehension of that. And if she does, she doesn't care because she's not taking action against it. So
yeah.
I say good on you for resisting and fighting the good fight.
Thank you. Um, there's been a lot of people who've asked me to come back to the main server, but
Yes.
honestly, I can't see myself coming back to a server that really only stresses me. It honestly, you know, ever since I left that server, I have actually noticed that I'm like having, less stress and I can like sleep a little bit easier,
Yeah.
without this looming threat of Arthur, our great Führer, and the Syrian Reich.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, I want to wrap up this episode with one last question, and this is a pretty hard-hitting question for
Okay.
Omar, actually, for Omar, because I know Omar is really, when you mention the group that shall not be named, he does, you know, not like it, and he really hates it. So I want to ask you, do you think that the Finlandic group presents a credible threat to TSU?
I'm glad you asked me that because there are two answers here, and they're dependent on what action the Premiership takes. Number one, if the Premiership decides that yes, change is needed, which of course it is, it's so obvious that change is needed, and they work with me and allow me to make those changes, then no, that group is not a threat. And if the Premiership is willing to rally the development team into creating something interactive, then
Six
no,
has been
it's not a
taking
threat.
a very big initiative lately with that.
He has, and the development team is a completely different matter that I'm not going to comment on right now. Perhaps in future I'll make a comment on it. But anyways, however, if the development team is not rallied around this idea of making an interactive game, and if the Premiership does not make internal changes, then yes, of course they're a threat. Because this is what people see. They come to RTSU, they join SVAL. There are no jobs. There's no sort of interactive events or anything like that once you pass the border. The
Hmm.
most there is you can go to the cafe and buy a newspaper that is blank. That is it. And chances are you're going to get ran over by some random Spetsnaz or some random LR is just going to RK you. So, and then they join the Finlandic game and they see something extremely interactive. There's jobs that are extremely well programmed. Um, the divisions have these interactive menus for their uniforms where they can create approved variations of their uniforms.
Hmm.
Um, and they have 3D uniforms. Their weapon systems are pretty good. They have very well modeled vehicles that are era accurate. So what it all comes down to is a battle of quality. And right now, we're simply not winning the quality race, but we have the potential to absolutely sprint past them.
We could
It's
knock
just
them out of the park if we
absolutely.
locked in.
It's
If we
just
locked in.
we need them to lock in, and that drive can only come from the top.
So this is a call to action to Omar, and I know Sakes has already kind of woken up to this, but
He has.
Omar, you really need to just let let us change things and let us modernize because this group cannot be stuck in 2018 anymore. It cannot.
Yeah. The
We're
mindset that
going into
governed the growth of this
2026.
group, the mindset that governed the growth of this group 8 years ago is not one that can be used now.
Definitely not. There are certain things, certain developments that have come about on Roblox since those years have passed, and we need to get with the times or we will be stuck in the past.
Yes. Will fade quietly into the pages of forgotten history.
Well, that'll be all for today's episode of TSU First. I would like to note that this is all satire and parody content, and uh, TSU First does not reflect any views expressed here, and we're not even real. We're not even real. This is an AI.
This is an AI.
This is an AI
Were you
voice.
schizophrenic? Were your schizophrenic voices talking in your head?
Yep. So, with that being said, I'll see you in the next episode.